Okay, hello. Welcome to the second episode of the Pixel Pie podcast. My name is Scott. Thank you to those that have returned after the maiden voyage. And for those that are new, thank you very much for coming and joining us. What do we do here? We tend to just sit with someone, have a nice casual chat, someone who has sort of come up through to my attention in the community, generally sort of the Game Boy modding, but retro gaming in general. And we just get to know that person a little more. And we generally find that there's a lot more in common than just Game Boys. Before I do that, I'd just like to sort of mention, I've sort of picked up a bit of a sponsor, someone who I actually bought my first Game Boy through this mob, through retrogamestore.com.au. I bought my first GBA through Craig. Craig has sold me a whole bunch of parts. He's been very willing to take my money. I've been very willing to hand it over. He's been very approachable. I've hit him up on Messenger at like Sunday over saying, hey, dude, do you have any of these? He's like, actually, I do have one out back. Let me get it off you tomorrow. You know, he really looked after me. So if you're in Australia, New Zealand, which I think is sort of Craig's sort of primary target audience, anything Game Boy related, I've bought a video cable for my Mega Drive. I brought EverDrive carts from Craig. I bought the GBA built. I've bought all sorts of handheld legend, retro 6 style, you know, clean juice, screens, all sorts of stuff, full shells. Everything I've needed has come from Craig at retrogamestore.com.au. And hopefully I can coax him on in a few episodes. And we can get to meet the guy that's helping me out so much, and probably can help you if you just look him up. So with all the admin aside, let's get on with the conversation for today. And today the conversation is with Trey. Trey, you're in Atlanta. How are you doing, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for your time. I appreciate that you have actually just knocked off work. Is that correct?
Yep. It's right after 5 o'clock over here. So.
And you have a beer crack there. That's good to see.
Yep. I actually just finished the first one, so I'm getting there.
All right. Good to see. So Trey, you are on Instagram, TL Hand Modding. Your name sort of comes up quite a bit when I talk to people about, just generally modding Game Boys, and just, I think, really just enjoying the hobby full stop. Do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of, I guess, your Instagram, I guess, profile, and how much of you that reflects, and sort of build on top of that?
Right. So I started the Instagram back in, I believe, May, the first week of May. For me, it was really about just showing off, sort of my collection, what I had going on. I was doing a few mods at that point. I had already finished a few mods, and I kind of wanted to show it off there. So I felt like it was a good way, kind of like a quarantine project for me, is just to start the Instagram. And I feel like that's, happened with a lot of people that I know, is that, we all were cooped up in the house, and we had to find something to do. And the easiest thing to do is say, I already have an Instagram. I'm already following certain, people within the retro gaming community. Why don't I start my own Instagram focused on it? So that's kind of what I did there.
It's very infectious, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But for me, it was, I had been watching it for a while. I was already following people like Retro Future, Game Changer Mods, 8-bit Aesthetics. And I was just seeing all the cool things that they were doing. And I was like, well, I like Game Boys. I grew up with Game Boys and stuff like that. So, and I already, like I said, I was already modding Game Boys. So for me, that was the next logical step, was to be able to share that with people. Because my friends at that point, like, I wouldn't say they weren't into it. Like, people are obviously into it and what they're into, but for me, it was like I didn't have a lot of people around me to share that passion with.
Yeah.
And especially during the quarantine. So I was like, why don't I kind of put myself into the community, see where I can kind of go from there. For me, it was, sharing those projects. And I never really set out a goal or anything. For me, it was just like I did a cool thing here it is.
Yeah, it's the beauty of Instagram, isn't it? It's not really like other social media platforms where there's a requirement to sort of have a conversation, whether you want to or not. Someone wants to have a conversation with you, and the beauty of Instagram is it's sort of just this little bunch of photos, and generally most people are going to be like, "That's really great," or they're just going to give it a like. There's a bit of an age difference between you and I. You're 20 something.
I'm 24.
24.
I'm pretty.
Yeah,
I would say I'm pretty young for the community.
It constantly astounds me how much passion goes into all this tech that is older than the people working on it. And I love it because the older you get, like this is a bit of a ramble, but the point is I was out mountain biking this morning. That's what I do. And the older you get, the more exciting things become because your reflexes start to soften, your vision starts to dull, and woo, and you have these little close calls. And there's things I could do, even like I was doing the X Station mod on the PlayStation. I'm lifting pins I really actually couldn't see. I'd have to kind of lift them and then check them, lift them and then check them. And you younger people, I don't mean that as an old fart, but you just got so much. You got so much ability with like 20/20 vision and good reflexes and steady hands and stuff. And I love it because you're in there, and you guys are doing stuff and making things easier for people that are a bit older and can appreciate how much work really goes into stuff. And when I see people do stuff that gives honor and respect to something without kind of taking it so far it's unrecognizable, I think
Right.
that's really great. Yeah, so I just commend you youngins, I got my fingers in the air, for doing that sort of thing, still showing the respect for the tech, but at the same time, like some of the color schemes and stuff, I got that beautiful burnt orange GBA, which is far from traditional, but by golly, it's sexy, and it's because of this generation of modders. What other stuff do you sort of get into? I mean, you're probably not just Game Boys. What other retro gaming stuff?
So Game Boys were just kind of one part of my childhood. I was really big into GameCube. I had a PS2 growing up. Really, like I feel like I kind of grew up in the 360 era of gaming, so Xbox 360. Nintendo Wii was huge in my family. That was really cool to be able to play with my entire family on a system that you didn't really have to be a hardcore gamer to appreciate. And I think that was kind of what Nintendo was going for that generation. But I always remember going back way back to whenever I was really young. I never had an N64, but my neighbor did from his older brother, so we actually played on that a good bit for some games. GoldenEye and Pokemon Snap and Super Smash Bros and stuff like that. Besides that, kind of getting more into the modern era, really grew up, like I said, in the 360 era. I think what goes with that is the Nintendo DS, same kind of era. 3DS, obviously, and then I'm really big into the Switch, and I have a PS4 as well. So
the DS and the 3DS are amazing, aren't they? They really are a bizarre piece of it. Just, if aliens turn up, you want to hand them something that's kind of rad that we did, like give them a DS. Because it just the way it opens and the dual screen and stuff. There's just so many games that just the Nintendo in-house games where they just sort of went, we've got two screens, one's a touch screen, we can do this. Like it's just designed specifically for the job. I was thinking before about, you're sort of about, most of my friends don't, Game Boys and stuff. We always want to be part of a niche because it makes us feel good. Like the whole kind of like growing dreadlocks in my part of the world for when I was growing up was a big deal. And then everybody's got dreadlocks. It's like, so it doesn't work. And retro gaming was a niche, but now it's massive. But then at least Game Boys within it are still a niche within a niche. So it is nice to still have a community that's just still kind of friendly. And there's not the Xbox versus PlayStation kind of malarkey that goes on and stuff.
I definitely think that it's cool because you say retro gaming. Well, that spans all the way back to our Atari 2600 and NES and Super NES. And there's so many different consoles that, like I said, with me, I grew up with a GameCube, Game Boy Advance, then Nintendo DS and 360. That's kind of what sits in my mind in my childhood. games that I was playing the most. Somebody else can say, you know, I grew up with the NES and the original DMG Game Boy, and the different kind of perspective that comes with that. It's still kind of grouped in as retro gaming, but you're able to kind of find your niche community, like you said, within a niche. Definitely a cool thing to see.
And you can move amongst it too quite freely, because it always sort of translates. I think so. A few years ago, where I first started again, it was sort of arcade, you know, like arcade machines, which are quite hard to find. We're lucky to have a couple of really good places in Brisbane. We've got like what isn't actually like an arcade, old school, 220 odd cabs, one up. And we've also got a couple of bars, one particularly called Netherworld, which has got a bunch of good bars and a really great scene. And those guys have probably got me a bit fired up. But you can move from, like, if you're fortunate to have that, into some consoles, into some handheld. And the way the Switch is sort of bringing it all back around again, it just keeps like this perpetual wheel of just retro goodness. Yeah. So you, I think you and I were talking before earlier about the GameCube, and I think you sort of expressed to me you've got quite a fondness for the GameCube.
Right. I'm actually building my games collection right now. I still have all of my old games collection, but you know, I was pretty young at that point. So I was born in '96. I think the GameCube came out in like 2002, I believe. So 2003 maybe. But to say that is that you know, I was pretty young whenever it first got started. So I'm kind of getting the games back that I never had the chance to play or didn't have the funds to go and buy it myself, and stuff like that. So
how you're finding
it's really cool
tracking stuff down?
Primarily through Facebook Market. Actually, it's a really interesting way to do it. You just got to kind of go on and troll through it every day or so, just to see if there are any deals. And then I also do eBay, and then there's some retro game stores around here that there are about 3 of them in my area.
Oh, lucky you.
And you know, for me, it's like, are they the best deals? No, but you know, you're supporting a place that's you know, shouldn't even really be a thing with Amazon and everything.
That's right.
And it's really cool to see that.
And there's that game there right now in your hand to look at and take home.
Exactly.
It's a big difference. It's a big difference.
How you have that peace of mind of, you know, condition, like you were saying, because I feel like sometimes whenever you go online, like especially on eBay or whatever, you're never too sure of the condition. Like, is it going to be what it looks like? You know, fingers crossed it is.
100%.
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes there are issues that the seller doesn't tell you. Whenever you're in that store, they usually have consoles on hand. You can test out the game, you know, all peace of mind, especially with, like, I see Fire Emblem for the GameCube. It's like, I want to say like $300 and some just case of box.
Cow.
And you know, obviously you're gonna want to you're gonna break that out of the glass and say, you know, let me play this for a second just to make sure it runs. And so with those retro game resellers, those stores around here, it's really cool because, you know, I could just spend hours in there, to be honest.
I know what you mean. We've only got a couple here. There's one I've been to a couple of times, Eddie's Retro, and it's pretty good. He's got the most stuff I've ever seen in one place. But I'm actually going to check out one today down the Gold Coast a little bit, which I'm hoping is going to be pretty good. But yeah, it's some people are just totally relying on that, send the money and hope it rocks up and all that sort of business.
Right.
How are you finding, like, because you're in, you know, Game Boys and probably looking at other handhelds and just generally around other consoles and stuff, in comparison to the general market, how you're finding the cost of sort of slowly collecting GameCube? Would you say it's on the higher end?
Yeah, I feel like I mean, if you look at something like NES, SNES, they're, you know, 20 years ago, these are very common consoles, and Super Mario Bros. 3 was one of the best-selling games for that console. And you could probably buy that for like $20 back in the day. And nowadays it's like, oh, you're gonna have to drop $100 some just for this cart.
Yeah.
You know, I use a website called pricecharting.com.
Right.
It's really good it's like an aggregate website where you can kind of see all the market trends and stuff like that. But with that, you can also see how GameCube skyrocketing right now, probably ever since the quarantine. Pokemon games skyrocketing right now. So for me, it's like you kind of have to get ahead of the trend. And what's the trend right now? Well, it's GameCube and Wii.
Yeah.
So what's ahead of that? If you want to start collecting for 3DS and Wii U, you should probably do it now.
Yeah, agreed. The Wii U especially is starting to go bonkers. Yeah.
And it's just interesting to see because I feel like that you could say the same thing with consoles. I think if we look back 5 years ago, it was, you could get a working Game Boy for $15.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nowadays that working Game Boy is going to cost you 45, 50,
Yeah.
60, 70, depending on what kind of game, what condition it's in, what kind of screen it has in it, stuff like that. So definitely interesting to see the kind of trend the market's going in. And I think that is kind of a tell of how popular modding is getting nowadays too.
Yeah.
Because at least with Game Boys, you look at it and you see all these different displays coming out, and it's like, well, finally we have a backlit display for a Game Boy, and it's easy to put in.
Yeah.
Back in the day, even 2018, whenever I first started looking into modding and first found Retro Future, it was like, the easiest mod you could do was probably like just a shell swap and button swap.
Yeah.
And while that's still the easiest thing you can do, people are just streamlining things so much with the drop-in display solutions and everything like that. It's super easy to get a very quality console nowadays, but because of that, you're going to have to pay more money because the demand is outweighing the supply.
Yeah, 100%. And also there's an interesting market with everything, that if things get priced according to how well they'll sell, and it's not like people taking advantage of it, but the price of everything is going up and it becomes relative.
Right.
You try and I could buy a really nice mountain bike bicycle helmet, riding helmet for $110, $120, 3 or 4 years ago. It's a $250 helmet now because they know you got to have one. and the price of everything's gone up. So it just keeps going up and up and up. So sort of turning more towards the Game Boy stuff. You said you'd only started your Instagram May this year. I'm going to assume, since you were kind of born with a GameCube in your hand, the Game Boy collecting, modding, just loving didn't just start May this year.
Right. So for me, my first console ever, handheld otherwise, was my mom's hand-me-down Game Boy, the OG, the DMG Game Boy. And it was the one game I can remember playing on it the most was, I think it was like Gator Pinball or something like that.
God bless.
It was made by HAL Laboratories. And I just have this like very deep nostalgia in my mind, this one memory sitting on, the ground by the fire and playing that game. And I'm trying to get, get the pinball up. And, from there, the first game I really remember putting hours into was Pokemon Red. Right. And at that point, Pokemon Red had come out whenever I think it was in 98 in the US. And I was like 2. So later on, I think I was like 4 or 5. Pokemon Gold was already out. Pokemon Crystal was on the way. And I got Pokemon Red and I was like, I want to play this so much. But the save battery was dead. And so from there, it's like, I got to keep it on until I can get as far as I can. And I was like, Mom, my game's not working. Can I get another one? She got me Pokemon Blue.
Right.
And so from there, it became like a love of Pokemon. And so it's very dear to my heart. But after that, I kind of branched out into other games, Metroid, Zelda.
Metroid on the GBA.
Yeah, Metroid on the GBA, Zelda, DX, Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. And then, from there kind of went to GameCube and, I got a PlayStation 2 and I remember playing Spyro and Crash Bandicoot 3 and eventually Kingdom Hearts. So
what was your first sort of, handheld purchase after sort of hijacking your mum's DMG?
So I very faintly remember this, but whenever I was very young, I want to say like 6, my family had decided to go to New York City for a little trip. And back then, the Nintendo World there was actually Pokemon Center, New York.
Oh,
And
wow.
being a kid and at the height of Pokemania, Game Boy Advance had just come out, and I was like, I want to play
Oh,
these
wow.
games. I want to play Pokemon Ruby, Pokemon Sapphire. My first one that I remember being mine alone was the Golden Pokemon Center New York limited edition. Had Pikachu and Pichu on the glass lens, and that's a very common repro
Is that
nowadays.
the
But I had,
GBA or a color?
yeah, the GBA.
It's I've got to ask, do you still have it?
I do, I do.
Oh, wow. You must be so happy
Um,
with that.
yeah.
Don't you wish you just had
Um,
like $1,000 on the day and just went and just shoved it all in a
yeah,
hole somewhere,
man.
because you could just like
Right,
whatever a
right,
number bigger than quadruple is your money.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, especially nowadays, you see Pokemon cards blowing up again,
Mm,
and all of these old game. I feel like the Pokemon card, because Logan Paul and these influencers got into it.
right.
It's a good thing and a bad thing because it brings a whole bunch of people to the Pokemon cards, but it also kind of shows the bad side where people are trying to scalp them and
Yeah, for
all of
sure.
that stuff.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about it is that a whole bunch of people are seeing this and they're saying, I used to love Pokemon cards. Like, I'm going to get it back into it. Well, I used to love the old Pokemon games. Let me get into retro gaming again.
Mm,
And so I think that there are pros and cons of that. Like I
mm,
said, the bad side of it all, but I think that just having new people come into the community and being able to share that passion with them and see what kind of ideas they have around retro gaming and
yeah.
what kind of stuff that they want to do, whether it
Yeah.
be a different type of shell or,
Yeah.
with me, I do a lot of cart stuff. So, um, what do you want to do with a cart? How do you want to customize it?
Yeah.
And getting that influx of new blood, I guess.
Mm,
It's really cool. And I feel like it drives kind of ingenuity and improvements within the community. I feel like the past year we've seen so many different mods come out just for Game Boy. Now we're getting into Game Gear
mm,
and stuff like that. Neo Geo's getting new
yeah.
mods. It's really
Yeah.
cool to see this kind of focus on retro gaming handhelds. We see a lot of HDMI
Yeah.
on the old consoles. I have we were talking about GameCubes earlier. I kind of pimped mine out. I got this HDMI converter plug-in thing, and it's called the Eon GCHD,
Yeah.
and it's able to plug into the back of my GameCube and just naturally output HDMI.
Oh,
And
and how does it look?
so, oh man, it's beautiful. It's
Okay.
beautiful, and it's so worth the purchase for me. And it's really cool too because there are different things you can do. It makes it easier to stream those games in HD
Right.
if you wanted to do streaming for that, and kind of show off these older games as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's great. Let's talk about your cart stuff. I guess when I first sort of looked at this all, I was like, carts, hey, like, because I've got a bunch of carts. I haven't bought a single cartridge, and I have about 25 DMG cartridges. Oh, sorry, I bought a couple of Everdrives that I just got with Game Boys I bought. And as I start to
right,
get them, I start to kind of get that same feeling of, you know what? One day back in time, someone had this cart and they put it in, and they just for hours, it just amused them. Maybe they worked a crappy job and they sat there and it got them through. Maybe they were a kid and it helped them. They sat by the fire with their mum's DMG or whatever. And so I started to appreciate carts for what they really are. And I always sort of said to my wife, "Well, we get back to go back to Japan. I follow a few of these YouTubers and they just go shopping in Akihabara and stuff. And you can buy the first 5 rock bands, like the Japanese versions, for like
right,
for Famicom for like $5 each. And I'd be like,
yeah,
I just get them. Just why not? Why wouldn't I have them? And
right,
and, and I sort of
exactly,
and I saw the stuff that you're doing, and it's a really, when you're talking about displaying, or you're talking about, I want to play. I love Bulbasaur, and I want to play Leaf Green in a cart that really shows how much I love Bulbasaur. And I think
Yeah.
that's sort of where you start to sort of just help people enhance their experience. So I guess let's talk about that a bit. Did you just do one for yourself and then someone saw it and all of a sudden you're like, look, I like helping people out?
Yeah. So whenever I first started, what got me into doing carts was I looked at 8-Bit Aesthetics account. 8-Bit Aesthetics is huge and very clean mods, super cool. They, he works with designers all across the world to kind of make this artwork, and I believe he UV printed himself onto the console.
It's
He also
it's a game changer, right? That stuff.
Yeah, exactly. He also does custom cartridges with Jelly Belly Customs. That dude is insane.
Yeah.
I believe his name's Matt. Matt, I don't know if you're gonna listen to this, but shout out to you, Matt. You're awesome. Because what he does is he actually made molds of the old cartridges, and right now I think it's just the DMG style Game Boy cartridges, but he fills it with this clear, I believe it's resin cast, kind of like you would do with making custom GameCube buttons and stuff like that, but he fills it with this clear resin cast. And so he has different cart colors. Some of them are clear, some of them are clear yellow, clear red, all of this stuff. And it throws me back to N64 with like I think it was the Fantastic series, where they have these clear, atomic purple controllers and consoles and all these different colors. And now Jelly Belly Customs is selling those cartridges, and that was what kind of did it for me. He kind of teamed up with 8-Bit Aesthetics. 8-Bit said, I'll be your distributor for the US, and we can throw labels on them and we'll sell them, and those are awesome. So I looked at those and I said, well, that's really cool. I'm obviously a huge Pokemon guy. How can I look at that and say, that's really cool, but there's something I would want to do with it? And immediately, like, shiny Pokemon came into my mind. And if you're not a Pokemon person, shiny Pokemon are the alternate variant colored, kind of to show like albinism within Pokemon.
Yeah.
The biggest, most well-known one is probably Black Charizard.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I have some experience with Photoshop. Let me see what I can do. Let me try my hand at it. And that was kind of my first thought was, let's make those labels, because it would be really cool if Nintendo did it originally.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And I was like, well, I'll do that. And they came out looking really well.
Sure did.
So at that point, I was like thinking, well, what else can I do with different labels of different games that I like? So, I looked at Link's Awakening. The remake came out, and I used some promotional art from that, and I made a Link's Awakening cart. And then I did Metroid, and I found some art that some guy drew on Reddit. And I reached out to the guy. I was like, hey, like, I would love to, make a Game Boy label out of this. Can I use your art for this? He was like, yeah, go for it.
I'm
credited the guy. Like,
I was looking at a couple of cards here. One's got the Entei, and one's got the Suicune, a couple of legendaries, and you just can't get that any other way, and that's that's key to really tickling someone's fancy, is offering something that they want and you can give.
Definitely.
And especially in such a
big.
bespoke sort of nature, like there's 1,200 Pokemon now.
Oh yeah.
If someone wants one like this, they just reach out to you and say, dude, I just love this. I love everything about this. And they can have. So it makes people happy. I always say this, it makes people happy.
Right. And for me, it was like, they want this. They want to see, Clefairy on a cartridge.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, if Clefairy is your favorite Pokemon, let's do it. Every single Pokemon is somebody's favorite Pokemon. There's so many possibilities for different things that you can do.
Yeah.
And within that, every single Pokemon has like 6 different artworks that you can use.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, you know, how do you want this? Do you want shiny Entei? Do you want regular Entei? Do you want old school
Shadow,
watercolor, you know, shadow Entei?
yeah,
Whatever it is, whatever you want. Like,
yeah,
I was here, I was like, this is fun to me.
yeah.
And I wanted to be able to share that, you know, creative outlet for somebody, because for me it was like, I'm getting my creative outlet by looking at different colors and saying, you know, these colors would look good together. These colors would accent the Pokemon really well. That, you know, what kind of background do I want to make? This, you know, all of this different stuff. What kind of cart color do I want to use? Stuff like that, to where it's a truly custom cartridge, and that person, you know, it's going to be a prized possession for them, hopefully.
And you make
because it's, you know, it's their favorite Pokemon. So I actually sourced the cart.
Yeah.
So I sourced the shells. So Jelly Belly sells shells, Retro Modding sells shells. And then Yesterday's Tech is about to make some, and they're actually in Australia. So you might want to look their way. But Yesterday's Tech,
I've
really cool
I've
stuff.
spoken to that gentleman already.
But yeah, so what I'll do is, you know, I'll look at these cards and I'll say, hey, you know, Retro Modding, I see that, you know, you do a bulk order discount for however many cards, 25, I think it is. And I'll say, well, I'll buy these and I'll just get them in bulk because I know people are going to want them. And it makes it easier for me not to have to go back and forth with Retro Modding. And I'll say, you know, I have 25 clear red cards. I have, you know, 10 yellow cards, 10 green cards, whatever it is. And at that point, I'm able to say, you know, to whoever comes to me, I'm able to say, well, here's my selection of cards. And, you know, they either say Game Pack if they're from Retro Modding, they say Nintendo Game Boy if they're from Jelly Belly Customs. And it's like, what do you want? You know, how do you want to customize this? Because at the end of the day, that's going to be their card.
I have a black DMG, a backlit DMG, and it more or less just plays Tetris for my wife and I. Just saw it's got a clean juice and it just kicks around the living room, and you just kind of like, I've got 3 minutes till these chips finish in the air fryer, or you know, I'm waiting to use the toilet or whatever. So you're just kind of like waiting for someone to get ready to leave the house, and we'll just crank it up. And it's not, so it's pretty much a Tetris machine. So to build like the most pimped out, whacked out DMG from a nice reshell with a nice LCD and have a Tetris cart that just is, it's like the seat covers on your brand new car, just totally fits in there. I can 100% understand. You see these people that just love Kirby, and they've got walls of Kirby stuff, and now they've got a GBA with a UV printed Kirby shell, and then they've got Kirby's Dream Land probably as a custom bespoke cart in there. You know, like you're totally fulfilling. You're putting that little bit of detail into someone's collectible kind of addiction. So
exactly. And it's like, I work, like if somebody comes to me, it's like I work with them until they're happy with it. I'm gonna make sure that you're happy with what you're getting. And for me, like it's not my job. I don't want it to be a business. For me, I want people to be happy and say, you know, I got this old crappy, you know, Zelda cart that's got a torn up label. It looks terrible, but I really want to play it again. I love that game. And they come to me and they say, like, you know, I want Zelda, but I also want the owl from Link's Awakening. Well, it's like, let's throw the owl on there. Like there's no limit to what you can do. All you need is Photoshop. And I use GIMP. I don't even use Photoshop. GIMP is the free alternative or whatever it is. It's like you really don't have to pay for that. What you're paying me for is just the fact that I've invested in the equipment to make the label for you.
Oh, and it's a talent
to help you with that design.
You're an artist. I mean, there's things that I think there's some people in the community that are just freaking crazy at what they do, and they don't appreciate the skill of soldering. I'm fortunate in my career. I've been given the opportunity to solder, and I solder on a regular basis. And so it's comfortable, and you just realize it just becomes second nature. People can't solder.
Right.
And if you can't, you are so restricted on where you can take your modding. Like I just watched the V4 rips OSD LCD. It's getting bonkers. DMG screen.
Right.
And if you don't because the actual front board doesn't come with a speaker, if you don't want a speaker and you're going to run purely headphones, you don't have to solder.
Exactly.
So if they were to solder a speaker onto that, which kind of is a bit odd as to why they don't, but that's fine, whatever. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's a solder-free, full-blown refurb. The beauty, you do have to cut some of the shell out, which is a little bit,
Right.
depends who you are and what you want to do. But generally, you can do that without any skill.
Right.
So you're
Right. And
saying,
me,
oh,
it's like,
you're paying me for Photoshop. Well, no, people are asking, hey, I can't draw an apple. Can you please put this Pokemon looking great on my cart for me?
right.
So give yourself
And
credit,
for me,
mate.
it's I appreciate that. You know, for me, it's, you know, I want to take somebody's idea. I recently did a custom commission, and I need to actually get this printed out and sent to this guy. But his name is 8-Bit Pawn on Instagram. So if you want to go and check him out, he was the one that I did the Entei and the Raikou cart for.
Yeah.
He came to me and he was like, hey, you know, ever since I got those carts, I've wanted to do this. I've had this in my mind. And like I was on break for holiday. So, you know, I've kind of opened the shop back up and I've been taking commissions. And he was like, I want to do, there's a Pokemon game on the Game Boy, Pokemon TCG game, the video game. So it's the trading card game,
on the
but
color.
it's the video game.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he was like, I want to do that, but I want the label to look like the back of a Pokemon card.
Oh, wicked.
I was like, hell yeah, man. And he was like, I have this.
It's
I
like
have
you
this
put your
clear
deck
blue
in.
cartridge. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's like, I have this clear blue cartridge and I want it to look like the back of a Pokemon card. And I was like, you know, that sounds awesome. Let's do it.
Don't you just want to hug him?
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're bringing the ideas to me.
Yeah,
so
that's
like,
right. Yeah.
You know, I get to be creative on my own with whatever projects I just do out of the blue.
Yeah.
But the people that come to me and say, hey, you know, I have this idea, can you make it look good? It's like, well, that's half the work. It's just having the idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like super exciting to see that type of stuff where it's like I said earlier, you're bringing in a fresh blood to the community. You have all these different ideas of how you want to customize stuff, you know. And so for me, it's like if I ever get quote unquote, you know, artist block on what I want to do, I'll just say, hey, you know, hey,
what do you want?
You have, what do you got going on right now? What kind of games do you want to do? And for me, it's like someone says, hey, you know, I want a Tetris cart, right? Well, for me, I like to go into the history of what the game is. And at least in the English version, there was no like Russian imagery.
Yeah.
Because of the whole Cold War stuff. So what I thought would be cool is like, let's put, you know, the towers, the Onion Towers in there. Let's do that. Let's put some Russian stuff because it's from Russia. Like why?
Yeah.
You know, so there are so many things where it's like, you can come to me and say, hey, I want this. And I'm like, are you cool with this? Like, what kind of direction do you want to go in? And I think that collaboration is really cool to have with people is, you know, they either have something very set in their mind and it's like, sweet, let's do it.
Yeah.
Or they're like, hey, you know, I know you do, you know,
I've got some
well
money.
With this stuff, like knock it out of the park. And I was hell yeah, man. Like, like, cool. I'll let you know what I come up with.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool thing to see is like just being able to collaborate with different people and go into what their favorite game is, or if it's a specific game like Pokemon, what's your favorite Pokemon? Or, you know, do you want 2 Pokemon? All of this different stuff, not trying to make it a Pokemon episode, but like there's so many different ways and that you can customize a cartridge that, you know, for me, it was like, I see everybody around me kind of doing consoles and not a lot of people doing cartridges. Yeah. I saw 8-Bit Aesthetics doing cartridges. Obviously there are people that have the molds for the cartridges. And for me, it was like, well, I think that would be really cool to do. And you know, it's really easy to just print out a label with some sticker paper and slap it on there. Like maybe I should put my hand at that. Maybe that's, you know, what I'm interested in. And, you know, it's not always what I'm going to be doing, but, you know, it's definitely something that I enjoy. And I find myself, like we were saying earlier, a niche within a niche.
Within a niche.
Where, yeah, exactly.
It's
where
Inception
cartridge and just game customization is a niche within modding itself, which is a niche within retro gaming.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's right.
You know, how do you want to customize this to you? I want this to be the best thing for you.
The best there ever was, if it's going to be that kind of episode.
I guess so.
so generally, because like your Insta has got like obviously lots of pictures of carts. So do you tend to, because I assume what happens is someone's got a cart and you don't go out and buy like 20 Zelda carts because that would cost you way too much, and then just crack them open and put the boards in this new cart. Do people generally say, I've got this cart and I want this, and I'll open it up and I'll pop it in when I get it? Is that generally how it works? Or do you just apply just the stickers, and they want to keep the original cart, they just want to replace the sticker?
Yeah, so if it's a torn up sticker,
label.
Label, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
If it's a torn up label and you say, hey, you know, I just want a new label for this, I'll make just a label, and that's, you know, cheaper than having a cart. But for me, you know, the store right now, it's you know, you buy the label and then you can buy the cart as well, and I'll pre-apply the label to it.
That's
I'll make sure it's perfect, so you don't have to worry about any of that, like any air bubbles or anything like that,
or crooked and stuff.
Yeah, or crooked and stuff like that. And I'll, you know, if it takes me 2-3 labels to do that, I'm going to make sure it's perfect by the time it gets out my door. So right now that's the most cost effective way to do it. Because at a certain point you're saying, all right, I got Pokemon Crystal, you know, just the game cost me $60. You know, how much would, you know, everything else cost? And it's like, well, I'm selling this game for $100 that, you know, other people can buy for 20. And it's tough to find a buyer like that. So for me, it's easier to just say, hey, you know, here's the cart, comes with the Phillips head screw.
Right.
You know, if you know, you got your game bit to get the other game out of the old cart, and you have the new cart, and you can kind of switch between them too. You don't have to always.
It's totally reversible. You can take that crystal, that sapphire, and you can put it in your beautiful cart. And then when it's time to cash in and you've had enough, or you got a mortgage or whatever, you just swap it all back over, back in the box, and flog it off.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, that's really cool thing too, is because whenever you're looking at consoles, they're a bit more permanent, especially with the different display mods going on. Like, you don't want to have to take it apart, you know, reshell it all the time. But with cartridges, it's super easy. It's just one screw. You're not messing with anything on the board. You're just taking the board out, putting it in a different shell. You know, I've kind of I've invested in a cart flasher to do homebrew on physical cartridges.
Ooh. This keeps coming up.
So hopefully, you know, I'll be able to kind of figure all of that out with, you know, my computer soon. I haven't really had a lot of time to test it and stuff like that, but I do have two just blank cartridges from Inside Gadgets, and I got my flasher from them too. They're also in Australia. So shout out to Down Under. Does it take like 3 months to get there or something? Everything I order takes like 4 weeks to come from the US. Almost everything, unless I pay the price of the item I bought. Right. So because of that, I do tend to pay DHL 2-day, which is only like $20 to where I'm at.
You want it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially if it's something like a Jelly Belly cart, you know, that 2-day, that $20 is just for the entire order.
Yeah.
So if I have a cart coming from Jelly Belly and it's like $40, you know, US, and I buy multiple. Well, how do I offset that shipping cost within the cost of the cart itself? It's really, you know, at some point, if you buy 4 cartridges, it's only $5 shipping per cart. So that's kind of the way I look at it. I'd rather not wait 3 months
Yeah,
for
and
something to come
I
get in.
exaggerate a lot. It just
No, no,
it
I
just
mean
seems like
at the
3
peak,
months when you're waiting for
no,
something that you
definitely,
want.
definitely. At the peak of the pandemic back in the summer, it was 3 months,
Mm,
especially going
mm,
international. So within
mm.
the US, it was a couple weeks. I remember I was just trying to sell a limited edition 3DS that I had to a guy out in California, and it took it 2 months to get there
Oh, dang.
because LA was so swamped with the postal service. It was like,
Yeah,
it couldn't even
yeah,
find his ad find the
yeah.
box to
Then there
get
was
to his
like
place, but it's
Christmas
still in
and
there. So
and
it's
an
like,
election and all sorts of crazy stuff
yeah,
going on. Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's like it's just super easy. It's very accessible. I think the easiest mod that you can ever do is just to swap a cart. It's
yeah,
one screw.
yeah.
The
Totally.
second easiest mod is, you know, swapping a shell and swapping buttons on a console. And then if you have a soldering iron, the easiest mod you can do is just putting in a new battery. So it's
Yeah.
it's super accessible for new people in the community. And if you get these games, you have these old Pokemon games or whatever without a save battery that's kind of gone dry, it's super easy if you go and get a $15 soldering
Mm,
iron and you just
mm.
swap out the batteries real quick. It's really not that difficult. You don't have to have a lot of soldering experience, and there are a ton of YouTube videos to help you there.
A
So
ton.
um
And it feels good, huh? Like your first thing you do when you're like,
yeah,
this was old and now it's new. Like
yeah,
and the
yeah,
reversibility
exactly.
of a mod is really important for a lot of people. There's plenty of people that are happy just to kind of hack into, OG DMG shells, and that's fine. I had someone that wasn't going to sell me a DMG once because I said to him I was going to backlight it, and he was
Right,
reluctant. And I said, I get that. Like, I already have a bunch, but there's also part of me that wants kind of, it's weird. I try to be like too kind of, spiritual, but I kind of want the energy of the original DMG in my hands, and I want to continue that. Now,
right,
it's not going to get enjoyed in this current state because I can play these games with other Game Boys that are backlit and everything like that. But I want to do this myself. Someday, someone's going to do this when this screen dies. So just sell it to
right.
me and let me do it, and I'm going to love it. And he was
Right.
like,
I
"Oh,"
mean,
and he was like, "Oh, okay, then yeah, fair enough." I was like,
even if you
Why
look
was it
at
so
it,
hard?"
it's like we were talking about GameCube earlier, and I think you had mentioned you got a GC loader.
Oh my
And
god, so good.
for me, whenever I was doing my GameCube, it's my original platinum GameCube that I, saved up my own money to buy
Mm,
whenever I was like
mm.
7 or 8.
A lot of
And I
lawns mowed.
said, yeah, I said, I have so many game discs, and I have my old GameCube. And obviously, I can buy another one if I want to put a GC loader into that.
Yeah,
But I decided not to put a GC loader in it, kind of with that like quote unquote purist
yeah,
type of view where
yeah.
I'm gonna upgrade
Untouched.
this to be playable on my new TV.
Yeah,
But that is the only mod besides, I got a custom jewel, the top thing, the top part, the
the
black
lid.
part where it says Nintendo GameCube on the
Yeah, yeah,
lid,
yeah,
the circle, that's
yeah,
called a jewel. So I got a custom jewel made with my account's logo.
yeah,
And that was the only mod that I actually did to it. And with the old GameCubes, the DOL 001,
yeah.
which has the digital out port plus the audio port, it is interchangeable. So I can always put it back if I want to.
Right, right. Yeah.
So for me, it was like I have these consoles from my childhood that, I'm probably not going to put a GC loader in, or
Mm,
I'm going to, like you were saying earlier, kind of honor what it was for me
absolutely.
back whenever I
Yeah,
was younger. But now I can get another GameCube and put a GC loader in that
yeah,
and do
yeah.
something
And
completely different with that.
yeah,
Get an orange one or whatever
yeah,
it is, and have, my GC loader in that, and still have the good memories and all the old discs. And
yeah,
if I want
yeah,
to, throw in a disc or whatever it is, the old one, that's great. And if I wanted to play it out of GC loader, that's great.
yeah.
And I think being able to go back with whatever your original console was and say, this doesn't have a backlight. and it still runs on AA batteries.
Yeah.
That is cool. I'm
Yes.
not going to play it all the time.
No.
It's not going to be my everyday
No.
carry or
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
whatever I'm playing. But it is cool to go back and say, it's so much different now
Yeah.
with the displays and stuff like that, and cool mods that are going on from people that are way smarter than me.
Mm.
Helder, who's making a ton of mods for the GBA and
Yeah.
all the batteries and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Natalie, the nerd,
Yeah.
so smart.
Yeah.
Like, these people are so much smarter than me, and that's great. And I will have a console for them.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm gonna have a console to the side if I just want to, get slapped with a old case of no backlight.
Yeah,
Just go sit,
it's if you
by
collect,
the window.
yeah, if you collect for more than just because I want to have. You collect because, like, I have a few sitting in a cabinet that I really like. One of my favorite is I've got a really nice, great condition Game Boy Light, and it was 10 years after they decided, like after DMG, and there'd been numerous handhelds with beautiful screens that took 12 AA's and went for an hour, but Nintendo just went, we're just going to keep doing this, like, all right, we'll backlight it. And even though it's backlit, it's still blurry as heck, and it's still really, because we've got LCDs, like, you're still looking at it going, I don't know how long I can play Tetris on this, because the eye strain to just get it done is still not as good. But like you say, you just pick it up. It's like going down the street in your dad's old, 67 Chevy. It's like, it's got no air conditioning. One of the windows doesn't even wind down. There's no seatbelts. Is this even legal? But God, this is fun. This is so good just to do this, So the reversibility and the stuff, like I just recently did the X Station on the PS1, and within 7 days I did the GC loader. The GC loader I literally did in my car with the aircon, waiting for my daughter to finish tennis. Like, I didn't have the game bit. So I went to J-Car, is a like a sort of electronics. I can't remember what you guys would have had over there, but it's all, most of that stuff's gone now.
Like Radio Shack. Probably.
Exactly, like a Radio Shack, and you can buy everything from resistors to HDMI switches and everything in between. So I bought the game bit stuff, and I watched a video at work just to waiting, and I watched a bunch, and I sat in my car and I undid the 4 big screws, took the lid off, undid all these. I had plastic containers because I knew I was doing this. So as soon as I got home, I could just bomb up the SD card and just get into it.
Right.
I literally did it sitting in the passenger seat of my car with 2 tools. Oh, sorry, I used a pair of tweezers as well. 3 tools in about 15 minutes. And you kind of lift the top off, you'll do a bunch of screws, you remove the optic drive, sort of whole assembly out from a chassis. You put the GC loader on the chassis with 3 tiny screws, and it just seats back in. This revision actually has the header that you used to mate with. You used to have to desolder this header from the GameCube and solder it onto the GC loader. This revision now, you don't. It's just plug and play. The PS1, I had the lift pins. I was pretty sure there was 70% chance I was going to screw it. And I didn't.
Right.
But it's irreversible. Like, I could probably put that back, but it's done.
Right.
That PS1 now is now kind of...
it's an X Station.
Yeah, it is an X Station. That's right. It's been fiddled with. Whereas the GC loader, so now the beauty, I guess, and I'm not trying to lean you either way, is I now have the optical drive assembly, which is now not doing any more kilometers. It's effectively your dad's Chevy up on blocks in the garage. So there's a bit of prosperity to that as well, and I can play any game I want. So I was really reluctant to get into consoles because I see people with just walls of dollars, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. But with flash carts and things like this, the world is now your oyster. And people like yourself that want to collect, I guess the beauty is you can try a game and go, because lots of people have those stories of, I bought this, it was $135, and oh my god, it's the most awful game ever. Oh, I can't believe I spent that. But if you collect them, you collect them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Go on.
No, so for me, it was like, I'm not trying to say like I'm a purist in any sense.
I think we all have a bit of it in us, though. We all want to see something just stay the way it was. We have that respect.
Right. I mean, I think it's cool though, because I think there's a way to respect it, like respect a console so like with a Game Boy. I've done a ton of them where the only thing I swap out within a DMG is the front board and the LCD. Like I'll go in, I'll take it apart, give it a nice clean. It's got the original shell, it's got the original buttons. It still has that Game Boy feel, but it's just been upgraded to where I want to play it more often now.
Sometimes new membranes can be distracting as well, I find. Like I did a GBA reshoot and I found the new membranes just didn't feel the same. So sometimes it's nice just to put that old stuff back in, eh?
Right. Yeah, and I mean it's like, you know, you just want to give it a little flair. You want to make it so you want to play it more.
Yeah,
I think
that's right.
For modding, that's the biggest thing I think with modding is nowadays is, you know, for some people it's I'm gonna flip this is going to be a business for me. Great on you. That's not me. For me, the reason I mod is because, you know, one, I enjoy it. I like taking things apart and putting them back together. I like refurbishing them
successfully. That's always good.
Exactly. That's the contingency. But for me, it's like I look at something and I say, this has been dead. Nobody's played it for 15 years.
It's getting no love.
Let me put some new buttons in it. Put it in a black shell with black buttons. It's blacked out. Now it's awesome.
Yeah.
Now somebody's going to want to play it because it's just so dang cool.
Yeah,
and it's going to bring people, by doing that, you bring people into the community that, you know, wouldn't have wanted to be here if there weren't, you know, the new displays and stuff like that. Because if it were the old displays, there's a reason why technology progressed the way it did away from the Game Boy and, you know, the DS, like the hinges and everything.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why I did that. But for me, it's like the reason I mod is because I want to bring those people back. I want to say, hey, these are still amazing games. There are new games coming out actually too.
Yeah.
Let's have a way for you to look at it and say every day and look at this thing and say, I want to play that today. I want to put that in my backpack.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to take that to work and have this bit of nostalgia from whatever period I was in, like whatever time period I was in at that whenever that game came out. I want to relive that while I'm on my work break.
Yeah. And Pokemon, we don't want to make this Pokemon heavy, but it always comes back because like Pokemon, I think probably the reason why I bought the GBA actually was because I was playing a bit of like I think I played Pokemon Greenleaf like on my phone on an emulator, and I was like, I want to play a kart, so I bought a couple of repros, one being Emerald. I bought Emerald, Sapphire, and Ruby, and I played Emerald, and that was why I bought the actual GBA. And I could just lay in bed on my side because the GBA just feels so good. It'll just rest. It'll just rest in your palm, and it'll rest in either palm. And I literally, you know, it's one of the few games where you could lay there and just you wake up, and you're like halfway through a battle, and it's like nothing's happening. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. I was going to catch this, and you go straight back to sleep or whatever.
Exactly.
There's lots of games you can't do that. You're hosed and you wake up and
I think that's a cool thing with RPGs. I was big on like obviously I said Pokemon's dear to me, but there are other RPGs, you know, Dragon Age and Final Fantasy and stuff like that, where it's like you can kind of just just put it down for a little bit, even if you're in the middle of a battle. It's not going to time you out or anything.
Yeah,
like
that's right. I just don't like to read.
The cool thing about like older games nowadays, because if you're playing something like you know, Pokemon Sword and Shield online today, you have the battle timer and stuff like that. You know, with something like Rocket League, it's so tough nowadays to just pause a game. I have a little brother, and my parents would be upset with me especially, because you know I grew up playing Modern Warfare 2 on the Xbox, and they're like so used to me just being able to pause a Pokemon game and put it down and go and you know, do the dishes or whatever it is. Well, if I'm in the middle of a Modern Warfare match, I'm just going to get smoked.
Yeah, that's right.
Sit there, just time out or whatever it is. And so
I'm on a run, Mum. You don't understand.
Or like in Tetris, you know, if you weren't able to pause in Tetris, that's essentially what gaming is nowadays with online and everything like that. So a cool thing about retro games is that you're able to just kind of pause and take a break for a bit, whatever you
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah.
Especially with emulators nowadays, it's like you can just save state it
Oh, I
and
was just
come
about to
back to
say
that
save
very
states.
moment.
Yeah.
And get right on with what you were doing. It's not,
Yeah.
you just pick it up where you left off.
Yeah. Well,
And I think that's a cool thing.
yeah, flash carts are the same. I've got a couple of EverDrives, and I honestly don't have the time to play right through like a Turtles in Time. So I can just kind of play like one level and just save state it and then come back in a few days and play another level. It's like, it just makes it so much more enjoyable just to be able to take it in bites. There are some games that deserve your heart and soul for 4 hours straight because that's how they were designed. You are supposed to hurt. You are supposed to be thankful that it's done. And you just drove through. But some games, it's nice to be able to do that 100%. And Pokemon, again, you could just save anywhere. You're like, I'm just going to walk around the corner here. I'm just going to throw this. I'm going to eat that. All right, I got to go to bed. Yeah. So how do you feel about your collection of say maybe not the GameCube stuff, because that's probably going to be something down the road. As far as Game Boys, how do you feel about your collection? Do you lean more towards sort of newer reshells, or do you still like to collect sort of original stuff? And how far through do you think you are on achieving some of your goals?
So I realized whenever I first started the account, I hadn't really made the decision to go into carts, like at all. I just knew that, I designed 2 cool labels for Pokemon Red and Blue. I hadn't done anything more than that. And for me, the Instagram account was going to be about consoles. And I realized that I have so many consoles that at some point I'm just going to sell them and I'm going to want to do something else. And so for me, my collection at this point is just saying, well, who am I friends with? Like, what console can I buy from my friends through Instagram or whatever it is? So my collection at this point is pretty much made up of either some of the consoles that I still have from when I was growing up, or consoles that I got built by my friends, and kind of has that sentimental value attached to it. I used to have, my old Game Boy Color. I had modded it with one of the old TFT displays. I put, gold buttons in it, smoke black shell. It was a beauty. I ended up selling that one, and the only Game Boy Colors that I have in my collection right now are from 2 of my friends through Instagram. And I still play them like, nothing else. Same thing with like my DMGs. The only I have 2 DMGs right now. One of them was through the retro modding contest back in January.
Yeah, cool.
They sent me this shell to kind of promote. They had not released it yet, and they were like, hey,
oh, nice.
We love your content. We think it would be cool if you could show off this shell and help us with a naming contest for it. And I was like, hell yeah, man. I'll do that. Thank you for sending me everything I need to make a new Game Boy. And the cool thing about it was that the name I actually proposed ended up winning for that contest. So it was like even more sentimental for me.
Yeah.
Because I essentially was like, I looked at that shell and I was like, that, they were kind of going for this space versus ocean theme, and the shells are this like cool, like marbled effect, and it's blue and stuff. And so they were like, everybody's shell is going to look different because it's this different way that we're producing them through marbling.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, that's
so
a whole
every
different
single
element.
shell is unique. Yeah, exactly. Every single shell is unique. And they were like, do you think it looks more ocean or more space? And I was thinking ocean and space. Like, if you think about it, Neptune is the Roman god of the seas, but it's also a planet.
Oh.
And so I was like, yo, you guys should call it Neptune. And apparently that caught on in the naming contest because that's the one that ended up winning.
Good stuff.
And so for me, it's like that one's right on my shelf right now because in my mind, I named that I named
Yeah,
that
yeah,
shell. I
for
named that
sure.
Game Boy, and that's what it's being sold as, the Neptune shell.
Wicked.
Um, so other things like that. What I want to do eventually is just have all of my consoles be from parts from my friends, because that's what I value in the community at this point. Like, everybody can put together a cool mod and a cool color, but if it doesn't have some kind of value to you
Correct.
attached to it,
Correct.
like, it's more easy to sell. I would never sell any of these consoles that I have in my collection right now,
Beautiful.
because my friends made them with me in mind. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Games wise, like I said with the GameCube, I'm just trying to get games that I didn't get to play as a kid, that I heard about, and I wasn't, I never played Metroid 2 as a kid. And I bought this custom cart, or I bought this cart, and I made a custom cart out of it, and it's one of my favorite custom carts. I don't know. I know we're on video call right now, but
That's right. You can show me. I'll tell everybody how great it is, because I am
right. So
I am a massive Metroid fan. Look at that.
This orange cart.
But you know what I like is
the
art is legit. Like, you can do whatever you want, but for you personally, you've kept that aesthetic. I'm sure if someone goes to your Instagram, they'll see that car. I'm looking at it on your Instagram right now.
Exactly.
It's got that kind of, it looks like the way Nintendo could have done it.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful.
And that's kind of what I go for. I go for, whenever I'm designing something, I want somebody to look at it and say, Nintendo could have made that, or they should have made that.
Yeah, they should have. That's right.
Because I feel like with the repros, some of the art is just really bad on them, to be honest. It's clearly fake.
Yeah.
To me.
Yeah.
And I know somebody like made that and is proud of it, probably in China somewhere. Yeah. But it's like,
maybe they were proud.
Oh yeah, exactly. Whatever kind of thing, whatever reason they were trying to design something as a repro, I want to make repros that look cool, that somebody would be proud to have in their collection.
Yeah.
And I want to make it to where, at least the cart, and I have a reproduction label notice on everything. I'm never trying to trick somebody into thinking this is a stock cart.
Sure.
I want somebody to know that this was a custom cart that somebody put effort into, that they were passionate about. I'm passionate about what I do.
Yeah.
And I want somebody that's on the receiving end of that to be proud to have that in their collection. That's my goal with the account nowadays. I think initially it was, let's get to 1,000 followers. I've already done that. At this point, it's just, I want to make cool things. Thank you, man. I want to make cool things, and I want to share that with people. And however I can do that, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. It's perpetual. The more of us that do this, and the beauty is, in my understanding and what I see, is there's already a good foundation of a really good community, and there's nothing better than being good in a community that's already good. There's nothing worse than sitting outside a community and seeing a community, whether it be Xbox versus PlayStation or whatever, and just going, oh, I don't even want to go there. Like, that's just messy. Right. Come on. I don't just, and it can really put off your whole personal experience, even though it's got nothing to do with you. So it is, you're blessed to be in a community that really appreciates. That makes a difference.
Right. And I think that, at the very start, anytime somebody makes an Instagram account like I have, or like, the tons of other people that have, and all of my friends, it all starts from a place where we want to share things that we're proud of.
Yeah.
And that we think will either inspire other people to do cool things. That is the coolest thing for me.
For sure.
Is somebody saying, hey, I literally got a notification during work today. Some Reddit user follows me on Instagram, and he was like, hey, I saw TL Hand Modding posted this cart. I had a Pokemon Gold. I made a label for it. Here's how I did it.
Yeah.
And for me to say, like, that person shouted me out as an inspiration for them to do something cool on their own, that's the coolest thing.
For sure, for sure.
Because at that point it's like we have that shared passion, and now I get to see how you get to be creative.
It's the circle of life.
And how
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I can't sing the Lion King song, but you know how it goes. Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's move on to then to a few, like, this is an opportunity I like to give people like yourself to bring attention to other people that you have inspired you, or people that you think could do with that little bit of spotlight, because that's what this is really all about. And look, there's going to be people, like we discussed before, that the cream floats to the top, and these names are just going to keep coming up, and that's fine. But this is an opportunity for you to help out people in sort of your part of the world, to get their feet, to get some inspiration, to copy, mimic, do whatever it is that makes you happy. And this is where you get your bits from. So go for it.
Right.
And the list can be as long and short as you like. And
you know, I've really no, yeah, you're good. I've really enjoyed getting to know people over the past almost year now. I've worked on a couple of projects with people, and I want to work on more projects with people. First, shout out to Jordan. He was on the last episode.
Good egg, that guy.
He gave me a shout out here.
He's a very, very brave man.
Yeah, man. He's a good dude. No, I mean, Jordan is just a good dude. He just sees the best in the community. And he would, like, I think he was mentioning Marky Pie, where Marky Pie, doesn't matter how many followers you have. It doesn't matter how many followers you have, who you are, whatever. Jordan, Retro Gaming Dad, he will shout you out. If he thinks what you're doing is cool, like, he will put a spotlight on it. And that is so cool to see. We recently did a project together, kind of, where he sent me a shell and I sent him some custom cartridges, custom cartridge shells and labels and stuff. We kind of did a trade, and that was I think that was my most recent post, was this Latios Pokemon Game Boy.
The GBA?
Yeah,
the lens there. Yeah, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So he actually hand polished the front shell for that, so it's clear as day, and it's beautiful.
Sure.
And that's like what I was talking about earlier. That one's going to be in my collection. That's not going anywhere, because Jordan helped me make it.
Yeah.
And so there's sentimental value attached to that. Another person I've done projects with is Rob, or Idle Hand Modding. People have said in the past, I thought you guys were either the same account or brothers, because we both have Hand in our name. Hand is actually my last name.
Right.
Hand in Idle is the saying, idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Yeah.
He really likes that saying, and so it's kind of what he based the account around. But he makes really cool painted shells. He has been kind of quiet lately because of some issues with customs at the border. So he's been kind of quiet lately. But he's
what is he really like? Is he in like Colombia or something? Or?
No, he's in Canada. And he sent a custom painted shell down to the US, and it got seized, which was crazy to me.
What?
Because there was a Nintendo imprint on it that he was not authorized to sell, because he's not with Nintendo. He didn't sell it though, so like,
right. This occurs to me.
It was pretty crazy situation
all the time. The amount of like cease and desists and stuff that Nintendo throw out.
Oh yeah,
and it's like
I'm walking the line there.
It's clearly they're just not interested in this at the moment. And there's people like, oh, I wish they'd bring out a new Game Boy. And it's like, no, we don't want them to bring out a new Game Boy.
Do that.
Because they're going to ruin everything.
Yeah, I mean, you like Nintendo, you don't like Nintendo. They, it is what it is, but they're protecting, from a business standpoint, they are protecting whatever copyrights they have to protect. So I get it. It's very unfortunate that these are 20, 30-year-old consoles, and you guys are still ruining people's fun and appreciation of them and what could have been. It is what it is. But shout out to Rob. He's one of my best friends, literally in real life and in the community. We've become so close. We've done you know, multiple projects together. He's a really good dude. He's, you know, he's a good dude. So next is Shawned. She is Pixel Fix
Yes.
in the UK. Such a good modder.
Yeah.
She's really big on pockets. She also does the hand polishing, shells, and I mean, she is just a blast to talk to too.
Yeah.
She's a really good person.
And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I enjoy photography. Like most of my hobbies, whether it be RC trophy trucks or, you know, model Gundam or RC aircraft or whatever, I enjoy getting on my phone and, you know, trying to just enjoy capturing it in those, the way I see it, which is not how you will see it. But if I could use a filter and I can put it somewhere and just go, in my mind, I might as well be on LSD because this is how I see it right now. And so I appreciate when people put the effort into just a console, just living, and you're living with it. So, and some of her photography is really, really fantastic, I reckon.
Right. Definitely. I agree. Kind of on the photography note, somebody that's given me a lot of pointers on photography angles lately has been Peg City 8-Bit. I know that Jordan had mentioned him before, but Tyler or T, he is just a great dude, and he's always down to talk. But he's actually helped me with a lot of my angles lately, and I appreciate that, because if you go and dig deep into my account, the first few posts are just atrocious when it comes to photography sense, because I got the light on behind me. I'm doing all the no-nos whenever it comes to photography, and I'm sitting here wondering why it only got 10 likes. It's like, well, that kind of makes sense, you know?
Because it looks terrible. And
it's a really cool mod, and it just I didn't capture it well.
And it's not hard or expensive. Like I've got a kind of a bit of butcher's paper, you know, like that big white roll, like sometimes you see in primary schools and that. And I've got that with some sort of black like can paint on it, and just a couple of $10 lamps from like Kmart. And you just kind of fiddle around and play with your phone, and it's amazing how much you can.
It's all about like for me, I've realized it's just about natural light, to be honest.
A lot of it is natural light.
You gotta have to. I mean, obviously, if you're taking like professional photos and you have a camera and everything, that's good. That's not me. All of my photos are from my iPhone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of the light I get is from my window. I make sure it's not too harsh, but I make sure it's well lit. That's how I kind of take my pictures nowadays. So but shout out to T. Really great on it. Another Canadian I know Jordan mentioned last time was Kelly from Next Stop Gaming, or Next Stop Please. She is the marbling queen. You know, another person that, you know, rising to the top. But she is one of the nicest people I know as well. She'll always be down for a conversation, and she even has a couple of custom cartridges that I'm super jealous of, because they have this marbling effect on the inside of them. And, oh man, I wish I would have thought of that. But
so did she do those, or?
So she does a lot of marbling stuff, and like she's not only marbling, but I'd say that that's kind of a sweet spot for her. But what she did, she took clear cartridges, and if you kind of hydro dip, like marble the inside of it, it creates this really cool effect. So she'll have like Pokemon Yellow with like a black, yellow, and some lighter colors in there for hydro dipping, and just kind of place it in there and marble it in. And I mean, that was a beautiful cartridge, and she gave it away, and it was like, you know, just because she hit a certain, you know, landmark follower wise, and she wanted to give back to the people. So you know, I love whenever people do that, and I've done that in the past with a couple of my different cards whenever I hit like 1K and stuff like that. But yeah, so next up, I would probably say Josh from Compi Customs. He is one of the people that I actually followed back on my personal account. I think there were only 4 of them, and I think it was Retro Future, Game Changer, Mods, 8-Bit Aesthetics, and then Josh from Compi Customs. Super cool dude. He is, I mean, he does these custom paint jobs, like they're beautiful. He'll just do so many different consoles, and not even Game Boys and stuff like that, just consoles in general. It's super cool to see. And I wish I could paint like that too. Next is Pixel Juice. Zach, he's a really cool dude. Have had a lot of good conversations with him. He's made a lot of cool consoles, and something that he's been doing that I thought was really cool lately was taking vinyl album covers and using them as backdrops for some of his consoles.
Oh, wicked.
Yeah. So it was really cool to see, because I hadn't really seen anybody do something like that. Yeah. And just seeing all these different vinyls that he has in his collection,
yeah,
kind of seeing a different side of Zach. And it's like, you know, what other side of me can I show in kind of the post that I make and stuff like that. Definitely inspiring. And he's really smart too. He was talking about he does a lot of miniatures, but he was also talking about like some other stuff that I realize I can't really share right now, but they're really cool.
That's fine.
And I wish I could talk about them, but he asked me not to, so I'm gonna let him do that whenever he gets to it. Somebody that just got back recently was Visual Pixel, Mike. He is a really good dude, and he is a whiz in Illustrator and all of that stuff. He's made a couple of different designs for shells from Player Wave, stuff like that, and Retro 6 as well, that they get UV printed on there, and he sells them within a shop. And he's just a really cool guy. He's a young guy too.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and I think he's a graphic design. I think he works in graphic design, and to be able to, you know, kind of translate your skills from your job into a hobby is definitely a good thing.
Absolutely.
Next, and probably one of the last ones, is this guy. I just call him B. His name is B_2_3_N. This dude is insane. Like, some of the consoles that he makes and the ideas that he has are so cool. He's taking like the one that sticks out in my mind, besides the amazing photography shots, the one that sticks out in my mind is he actually 3D printed this like kind of grid to lay on the inside of the front shell of a clear DMG. And it kind of has this like display grid effect, but it's very soft, like what I don't even know what to use, but it's like a net, and it's so cool. Right. And just his photography is amazing.
Okay.
He's kind of newer too. And then I'll say the last one for people I need to shout out, definitely Retro Avocado Mods. EG is one of my biggest supporters. He's such a cool guy. He lives over in Morocco, I believe. Oh, yeah. And some of the kind of backdrops that he has for his consoles are really crazy. Makes super cool painted consoles, like splatter paint jobs and stuff like that. They're dope. He did. I know he's done a couple of different custom controllers as well. NES, Wii, stuff like that. And it's just cool to see. He took a bit of a break. He just started posting again, so glad to see he's back. But he's always kind of been in the background, just giving people support and showing people like a lot of love. And what's cool for me is that like he's in Morocco, I'm in the US, and we both love American football. And it's really cool to see. And we've had so many conversations about college football and stuff like that. And you never think that you would have that kind of connection with somebody that lives halfway around the world. But that's the coolest thing about the community, man, is that, like you said, we have so many things in common that we might not have thought. And to be able to share this, you know, have this shared interest of retro gaming and kind of get to know people from there, it's great. And it definitely helped me, because, you know, whenever the pandemic started, it was my senior year of college. You know, I graduated in the summer, moved to a new place where I didn't know anybody but my girlfriend. And it was really tough.
It's real.
Didn't have
it's real.
I didn't have a job for a while.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was going to do, who I wanted to be. And what I did know is that, I made an account and it was growing and I was getting friends there.
Yeah, that's right.
And like, it's just been crazy because I know everybody's kind of had a rough time with the pandemic and kind of being isolated from other people, but to be isolated in a new city where you don't know anybody and the only friends that you have that you can talk to on a daily basis are the people, that are on Instagram.
You've never met.
That you've never met in person.
Yeah. It just goes to show, doesn't it? Because there's all this stuff going on with keyboard warriors. People are just talking rubbish and inciting all sorts of negativity in each other. Yet we're not.
Yeah.
So it's like there's clearly a problem somewhere, and we choose not to subscribe to that kind of behavior. So that's fine.
Right.
Yeah. Look, that's good. It's people have had real lives amongst all this stuff that we see, all these beautiful photos and stuff, and it's nice to see people just sort of go, it's been real, and this has been really great for me. And to know that maybe you've been really great for your mate overseas and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And all of these people live all over the world and all over the country. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have a few followers of mine that are in Atlanta, and I think it's like 4 out of like 1,400.
Yeah.
So it's not like I have a huge following in the regional area.
But you don't want to be mobbed every time you go down the street either. I mean, come on, there's a luxury in that.
I don't think I'll ever be mobbed, to be honest, with what I'm doing. But the cool thing is that you get to meet a whole bunch of different people from different backgrounds and different perspectives that are different ages than you and that live different lives than you. And you get to know them and you get to bond over whatever, common ground you guys have. And that's the cool thing about the community.
For sure. And hopefully I can convince, a few of them to step up like you and Jordan have and share that experience with us, because
I definitely think
it's just nice to hear people's voices.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's an opportunity that, some people didn't think they would be able to have, to be honest, is, they make an account, they think, I want to get to 100 followers and I want to get to 250 followers and I want to share my experiences with people. I want to share the games that I like with people. And eventually, you find yourself in a position where you're on a podcast with, somebody that you've never met in person, but you guys are having a hell of a time.
Having a good old chat, just sitting at the bar.
And being able to talk about all of that stuff is, it's really cool, man. And I never thought, even a year ago that I would be in this position. And so thank you for kind of giving us this ability to connect with people, in ways that I don't think we anticipated. So
I listen to podcasts about 7 hours a day. My job entails me standing over a bench working on electronics and stuff. And so for me, it's without podcasts. I would probably, I like music too, but I would probably go fairly bonkers. So I'm trying to give back to the podcast university in general as well. I subscribe to 20 odd retro gaming amongst the 30 or 40 podcasts I subscribe to, and they kind of come and go. And I think about what is it I want to know. And there's podcasts that I listen to, and a lot of it's long form, and I enjoy the opportunity for someone to talk about more than we could have squeezed this into 28 minutes, but I could have just looked at your Instagram and got the same sort of information. So that's not really what is the goal here. But we have been going for an hour and a half, and it has been a joy. Yeah.
I haven't even noticed.
It's not a problem, but I need to set the bar somewhere. Otherwise,
no, you're good, man.
Everybody will start. Next thing I know, people will be trying to outdo each other, and it'll be a 4-hour podcast. Yeah, that's right. So I need to set a limit.
No, that's okay.
So look, just in summary, all those people, I'll get some information. We'll get some sort of shout out tags in the wherever this gets posted, so that these people can follow up and buy you a beer.
Definitely, that's the goal, man.
Just my lots of beer.
It's just beer, and also I think you mentioned it last time. My ultimate goal is to be able to go to a con and just meet people that I
Yeah.
wasn't able to meet yet. So
Yeah, that'd be nice.
hopefully those days are soon.
Yeah, I'd like to make some friends. We were in I have a daughter and a wife, and we were in California November the year before last. We did 4 weeks,
Right.
and we just had the best time. We just really enjoyed it. And I knew there was so much around, and there was so many things I could have seen, but we couldn't. But it'd be nice to make some friends and come back and sort of know that I've already hit Washington and Atlanta. Like by the time I've done half a dozen episodes, I would have at least one retro gaming buddy somewhere within a day's drive, so
exactly.
really great. All right, look, we will kind of wrap it up there. I really do appreciate your time. You just knocked off work, but you had a couple of beers to settle you in, so that wasn't too hard. A beer and a chat. And look, for those out there, I really do appreciate you coming back and listening. And for the new listeners, thanks for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you'll continue to listen to what sort of these kinds of conversations that we have. 2 episodes in, I think I'm probably able to sort of say, if you're with Apple, you can go and give it a review. This all helps listeners grow, and then your community grows. And that's really what the whole goal here is. So see what happens. See if it bubbles up to the top somewhere. Pass it on, let people know what you're doing, and let people know that they can have a really good time in this community. I'm going to put a bunch of links with the post, like I said, for Trey and for all the other guys and girls that he shouted out, my new affiliate, retrogamingstore.com.au, and anything else I can sort of put in there. And I think that's about it. Trey, it's Friday night, mate. Thank you so much. At your place, it's Friday night. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and I have no doubt that we'll be in touch.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks very much.
All right.
And let people know what you're doing, and let people know that they can have a really good time in this community. I'm going to put a bunch of links with the post, like I said, for Trey and for all the other guys and girls that he shouted out, my new affiliate, retrogamingstore.com.au, and anything else I can sort of put in there. And I think that's about it. Trey, it's Friday night, mate. Thank you so much. At your place, it's Friday night. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and I have no doubt that we'll be in touch.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks very much.